Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another CYPRX video breakdown. We're going to do a deep fundamental analysis and technical analysis dive on what's going on in the market right now from an in-depth perspective. I'm going to be sharing some interesting dates with you all. We're going to be correlating that with the price action. Again, very informative video breakdown. If you enjoy these videos, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe. I'm going to upload this first one to YouTube, but to continue on a weekly basis, I think I'm going to start to do like a weekly wrap up. And if you all want access to those weekly wrap ups, I feel like I'm only going to be able to upload them to Rumble moving forward because of the amount of information that we're going to be discussing and talking about. Sometimes YouTube doesn't really like the topics that we might discuss in these video breakdowns. So if you all want to watch the full video breakdown, if you pull something valuable away from this video and you want to see more videos like it, comment in the description down below, and maybe we can start to do a weekly wrap up over on the Rumble page. Okay, make sure that you guys go follow us on Rumble. So let's start on, I'm going to show you guys how all of this information, what's going on in the market right now, is priced in through fundamentals, how they all correlate. Some very interesting rabbit holes and doors we're going to open up today. Okay. Now, I have this highlighted, this area highlighted on the charts for you all. Okay. This is back in October, November, December timeframe where Bitcoin potentially, again, it's not guaranteed, could have bottomed out and we could have potentially ignited the start of a new bull market. Now, at the same time, in correlation with the DXY depreciating in value at the same exact time, I'm going to show you all how an insider, okay, that has massive amounts of market connections and information called this out to everybody. And then days after that call out passed away, ironically, right? And I'm just going to show you all through fundamentals how this is all priced into the market. It's pretty insane. So stick around for this entire video breakdown. It's honestly going to blow your mind if you do. Okay. So let's start here with the jokes, right? The distracting fundamentals, right? We see December 5th as a date, 2022. Jim Cramer urges investors to exit crypto. This is how the system works. They're never on your side, but they drop little gems as to potentially what's going to happen next. So in today's video, we're going to attempt to piece those potential outcomes together. All right. Based off of the fundamentals that we can now currently read. And we know that throughout fundamentals, they drop little tiny gems. Jim Cramer is one of those individuals that is always wrong with his analysis, okay? We also saw back at the end of 2022, US senators saying that they see no reason why crypto exists, right? Pay attention to the dates. All at the same time while they were doing what? Buying up the fear that they were pumping in the market. You guys can see the dates. This is November, December timeframe at the same time those fundamentals were coming out. And I'm just attempting to show you all how through dates, okay, fundamental analysis can be important if you involve psychological analysis as well in combination. So at the same time that those fundamentals were coming out negative for the crypto sphere, while they were buying, they were also selling US dollars, okay, because at the same time, what was happening back in October, look down at the bottom of the screen on the DXY, October, September, November, December timeframe. I'm going to show you that. It's literally mind-blowing. So let's move down this rabbit hole. We have another document right here we see. Okay, let's go all the way back to November 2021. I just want to show you all how, again, this information is all priced in. Russian troops now number 90,000 near Ukraine border. This is for the first time that we saw Russian troops on the Ukrainian border, November 2021. Let's go look at the charts real quick, okay? You guys can see down here, November 2021, DXY strength increasing. Not only at the same time did we see a FUD event, a massive, again, flee to a safe haven currency because of a war, right? A potential war. We also saw the Federal Reserve do what? Kick up its tightening cycle. Again, quantitative tightening, right? All of that started to come into the market here, and we're going to get into quantitative tightening in today's fundamental. And what does quantitative tightening do for a currency? Why the DXY has been so strong recently, Okay, you guys can see how that's all priced into the market. Same in correlation with the fundamentals. When we saw Russian troops on the border of Ukraine, November 2021, same thing in crypto. What did we see? Let's go up to the highs of Bitcoin. People don't even really understand. That is the exact same time Bitcoin topped out. People started exiting risk on assets due to the war, okay, and the tightening cycle that the dollar was experiencing, at the same time fleeing to a safe haven currency. You see, okay, it's all planned. And now what are they doing? Same thing they did at the top, okay, where they sold because of a event, again, that all these bankers and elite individuals are in control of. They started buying up the fear at the bottom as well, when they were telling everybody not to. You guys see the fundamental dates, right? You're kind of catching the drift so far. All right, so keep up with me. Now let's go over to some updated fundamentals. February 26, 2023. So this is just 2 days ago. I went over this article with the CYPRX students this morning in our private Zoom call. Between the May 2nd and 3rd and June 3rd, 14th meetings, okay, so May and June, the Fed will have digested 2 more job reports, 1 retail sales report and 1 CPI report, all right? At this point, a pause in June might just be most likely of an outcome, but it really will depend on how all that data comes in. After all, 2 cuts are now priced in, so it talks about the central banks pricing in this information by year end verse 1 at the start of this week. And it goes on to say right here, in that regard, Powell has said that the Fed officials just don't see any rate cuts this year. Now, the reason why I'm highlighting these dates, May and June, not only are we starting to see regulatory clarity kind of kick up in this space where we see massive meetings taking place in May, in June, right? We see trade finance global meetings in May, in June, right? We see international government leaders to address crypto CBDCs and digital assets. This is happening in Washington, D.C. in May, right? Now, we're also seeing a potential Federal Reserve pivot. But along with these individuals, these elites telling you all at the end of December and November last year to stay away from crypto, what else were they doing? The reason why I'm reading this article to you guys, I highlighted in purple, priced in. They were pricing in a potential Federal Reserve pivot. And I'm going to show you that proof, okay? Why they were buying down here, the banking institutions, again, the people, the whales that have enough money to move the market like this. All right, stick around. So let's look at this article right here from the OMF-IF, and it says, this is from April 27th, 2023. May FOMC meeting could be relatively quiet of an affair. And then it goes on to talk about the X date, the point that the U.S. Treasury is unable to fulfill its financial obligation approaches. And we're going to show you in later articles that this is potentially going to happen in the summertime this year, okay? And it says right here, the March FOMC meetings took place against the tumult generated by Silicon Valley Bank's collapse and worries about an ensuing growth chilling deep credit crunch. Markets at the time debated whether the Fed might keep rates unchanged or hike them by 25 basis points. This is going to get crazy, and I'm telling you all right now, I'm going to blow your mind once we get to the conclusion of this video. Okay, it says, this confluence of factors sets up less stressful and relatively quieter and low-key FOMC meetings. But what I want to take your attention down here is what they confirm. They say, meanwhile, credit restrictiveness and quantitative tightening will be quietly running in the background. So you have to understand vocabulary here. Quantitative tightening, further helping the Fed do its job, will be running quietly in the background, okay? Well, what is quantitative tightening? Real fast, okay? Let me read the last bit of this. But the FOMC meeting and press conference from Powell may be relatively quiet. June may not be so pleasant, right? So maybe in May, they psych everybody out like something's about to go down, but then in June, it says right here, it may not be so pleasant. And they also confirm that quantitative tightening is still going on. So real fast, okay, I have this explanation for you guys. It says quantitative tightening, if you're not familiar, is a monetary policy tool used by central banks to reduce okay, to reduce the supply of money in circulation, ultimately to control inflation. This is done by selling government securities in the open market, which decreases the amount of money available for banks to lend out, and therefore decreases the overall supply of money. Do you all understand? Let's go back and look at the charts. Remember, I told you guys at the same time the Russian war in Ukraine was announced. Okay, for the first time, we've seen the article, Fundamental, for the first time, November 2021 came out. Well, guess what? At the same time, that is exactly when the tightening cycle was happening for the Federal Reserve. Okay, you guys can go back and look at fundamental outcomes that came out, or fundamental analysis that came out during those days. Okay, and it says when central bank uses quantitative tightening, it signals to the market that it's taking steps to tighten its monetary policy, which can lead to an increase in the value of its currency. This is because the reduced supply of money in circulation makes the currency relatively more scarce. So at the same time, we're seeing all of this FUD surrounding the United States banking system. We're seeing this debt crisis failure. At the same time, we're seeing fundamentals that are signaling that we're still going to see this tightening cycle continue, okay? We are at an interesting historical turning point while all of this is going on. The last bull run in 2017 started when the DXY crashed below the 102 psychological level. Same thing here in 2020. And right now we are at a major turning point where all of this turmoil is going down in the market, while at the same time, the market potentially bottomed out. Are we about to break this level or reverse back above it and continue this tightening cycle and see an appreciation on the DXY behind the scenes while everybody else thinks that we're about to reverse and have a Federal Reserve pivot? Okay, now let's continue. I'm going to blow your mind even further. It says right here, this is, again, remember I told you guys, this gentleman right here, he predicted all of this and then died days after. This is another rabbit hole that I'm going to go down in another video breakdown, but it says, this is again from October 7th, 2022. Now, let's go to the charts real fast, okay? This gentleman right here, when I explain to you who he is, you're going to be like, oh, okay, makes sense. Look at the pattern that I attempt to teach you guys here at CYPRX. We see lows in the market violated, and when did these lows all come in? September, October timeframe. Here in November, those lows were liquidated at the same time, okay? Again, remember, potential Federal Reserve pivot being announced. I'm going to show you guys that as well. And all of the individuals, the influencers, the senators, the people in control of this nation, what were they doing? Buying up your fear while telling you to sell, okay? Check this out. The Fed's jumbo rate hikes are spreading cracks through the markets, so get ready for a pivot. This gentleman, Guggenheim Scott Minerd, okay, said this on October 7th, 2022, right? At the same time, November 2022, a month after, we start to see articles come out talking about a potential Federal Reserve pivot, right? So what do you think the banking institutions are going to do? Let me again show you who this individual is. Guggenheim Scott Minerd, okay? He knew something was up. He said this in October. What were the banks doing in October? Look at Bitcoin, manipulating lows, setting up a trap. Then when you start to see fundamentals come out, okay, look at this. This article's from November 2022. We can even go look at more. Look at this. Check this out. This article is from October 7th, 2022. Fed may need to pivot by early November when something breaks, says Guggenheim Scott Minerd. This article came out October 7, 2022. Look at this. Okay. You can also go back and see November 2022 Fed pivot news articles. Look at all of them. Look at all of them. November 30th, November 18th, Fed pivot, November 24th, potential Fed pivot, November 22, Fed pivot, November 1st, Fed pivot, right? So what were the banking institutions doing at this time? Okay. They were pricing that in. They were buying all of that fear. Again, they were telling you all to get out of crypto. They were pricing in a Fed pivot. Is anybody else's mind blown right now? Do you all see, right? Do you all see how crazy this is? So let's continue. Okay. This gentleman, Guggenheim, Scott Minerd, hopefully I'm not butchering his name because he's a freaking legend. Look at this. Scott Minerd, after he warned the world, okay, the Fed may need to pivot before they break something. He said that in October, days after he dies from a miraculous heart attack. What? Scott Minerd, a force and a voice on Wall Street, dies at age 63. When did he die? In December, literally 2 months after he warned the freaking world. Right here, it says, so let me explain to you how massive of an individual this guy is. His connections are freaking probably off the charts. As the global chief investment officer, Guggenheim Partners, Mr. Minerd was a regular commentator on Bloomberg Television and CNBC and a fixture at the World Economic Forum in Davos. His financial prognostications were closely followed by investors. He was also a key advisor to who? The Federal Reserve. Boom, right? And what did he say before he died miraculously from a heart attack in October, right when they freaking manipulated the markets? Is anybody else's mind blown? He literally told people, okay, then days after he died. Now look at this. This is from March 13th, 2023, last month. Something broke. But the Fed is still expected to go through with rate hikes. Do you all see how this dude literally predicted this? Something broke. This is now March 13th, 2023. Moving on, okay? Now remember all the fundamentals that I've shown you all thus far. We're seeing massive amounts of FUD come out in the market surrounding crypto. At the same time, we already know that the banksters were buying the dip while telling everybody last time to get out, okay? I just showed you all how they literally priced this gentleman's information into the market. Okay, he warned everybody this in October. It's pretty crazy. Do you guys see why I'm going to have to most likely put this stuff up on Rumble? So again, if you want information like this, weekly video breakdowns, go over to the Rumble channel and make sure that you subscribe because that's where I'm going to have to upload any further video breakdowns like this. Okay, so now we see April 27th. So now we're moving forward. We're now current. So we went from past, showing you guys the market manipulation, to, a more recent past, and then now to present. A U.S. is on the road to a path to default, triggering other countries to dump the dollar, former Congressman Ron Paul says. Now, what I think is interesting about this is if we go back to the OMFIF fundamental, right? Again, April 27th, what do they say? Look at this right here. Here's another little correlation. It says the X date, what's that? That's why I highlighted that in green. The point that the U.S. Treasury is unable to fulfill its financial obligation approaches. So what if the news fundamentals are saying that there isn't going to be a Federal Reserve rate pivot, but we know that this massive date is approaching, while at the same time they're manipulating the markets and we're seeing all this de-dollarization talk going on? Is something about to happen? There has to be something. You understand? Every single time in history that the DXY has been at the 102, go back and literally check it. You can even go all the way back to these dates here. This is back in 2003, back in 1999. Go back and look at the dates. When the DXY was at the 102, something crazy in the markets happened every time. And that, my friends, is all about to unfold and guaranteed over the next 3 to 6 months. Okay, guaranteed something shaky is about to take place. So we see this. This is what they're talking about. The X date, the OMFIF, what they were talking about here. Okay, this date is about to come up. Is the U.S. going to potentially default on its debt? Right. We see here. When could the U.S. default happen? Economists say debt ceiling X date. This is from CBS News. It says, while projections of the so-called X date have put it sometime over the summer, right? Economists at Bank of America accept Yellen to update her guidance on the X date by early May and anticipate she will stick with the early June estimate. Bank of America goes on to say that they're predicting this to happen in August or July. Now, what I find interesting, and I told the CYPRX students this as well, is at the same time all of this is happening, right? What are we on the verge of moving towards? The Bitcoin halving, right? Okay. So don't you kind of think it's interesting how all of these fundamentals, this boiling pot that they're sticking ingredients into, is all about to unfold over the next 6 to 12 months? Okay, a potential Federal Reserve pivot. We're also seeing in the FX space, the FX realm, a potential pivot from the Bank of Japan, which is going to be freaking crazy on the markets. Okay, all at the same time, we're seeing regulatory clarity start to flood into this space. Now, it's not regulatory clarity on a broad scale just yet, but we're starting to see improvement. We're seeing massive regulatory meetings happen in May and June. Okay. All I'm saying, this is all things to take into consideration, be mindful of. Many blessings to you all. Hope that you all took something valuable away from this. I know that it was kind of leading all the fundamentals that I had to share, but just again, paying attention to dates, technical analysis, psychology in the market, and understanding how the markets move. Okay. They breathe in the form of energy, the energy that these elites, again, create for the entire globe. That is why when the IMF or the Bank of International Settlements or the World Bank put out fundamentals, those are the ones you want to be paying attention to. The Federal Reserve, the central banks, not all these little tiny bleak little blips in the market, these little tiny little hiccups, okay? You want to be paying attention to the big money. Follow the breadcrumbs. As always, be cognizant, be aware, do your own personal research. Don't forget, Forever Fishing Out on Amazon. Also, don't forget, go follow us over on Rumble. If you like video breakdowns like this, we're not going to be uploading anymore to YouTube, mainly because I want to say so much more, but I can't on YouTube. So yeah, many blessings to you guys. Links are in the description down below for the private mentorship program, book, Rumble, Twitter, all that good stuff. As always, do your own personal research, be cognizant, be aware out there, be safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video breakdown.